Well, in this chapter of our look at World War One, we're going to look at some of the historical figures of World War One. There are many people we could have chose from, but I picked out some of the more interesting ones and ones that'll definitely show up when we get to World War Two. You do not need to copy every single thing down about these people. In fact, I'll tell you which ones you're really going to be responsible for, and really kind of what their claim to infamy or fame, as the case may be. One interesting character during the time period was T.E. Lawrence, also known as Lawrence of Arabia. This came up not too long ago as Peter O'Toole, who played him in the movie, which I believe was in 1962. Uh, if you get a chance, see the movie. It's a fantastic movie. It's one of those epic movies. But he was a British Army officer, and he went into Saudi Arabia and that whole area of the Middle East, and became very well respected by the by the tribes there, especially Prince Faisal, who his family ended up being the ruler of Saudi Arabia. We really didn't have any time to look at this. The Americans weren't involved in the whole idea or the whole part of the World War One that was in Turkey and the Middle East. But he was just a real fascinating character of the time. And get a chance, check out the movie. And he also wrote a couple books which brought him much fame. Here's a picture of him in his Arab garb, and just a very interesting character out of World War One. The next person looking at here, and again, you don't need to take notes and all these things. Go ahead and read it. It's just kind of a brief synopsis of their life during World War One. Was Bernard Law Montgomery, and he ended up leading the British troops during World War Two. He was their overall commander, and he had many run-ins with the Americans during World War Two. And we'll definitely take a look at him as we move along in our look at American history. Here's a picture of Colonel Montgomery at the time during the time frame of World War One. Winston Churchill, he was working in politics, if you will, and he really championed the development of the tank as a weapon, and he really didn't do a whole lot during World War One, but really came to his fame as the Prime Minister of England and slash Great Britain during World War Two, and he cemented his place in history with that. And a picture of him at the time, very dapping English character. Moving from there, some people who really made their fame during this time again, Americans, was General Blackjack Pershing, and you can read through his little bio here. He came to fame during the war with Mexico a few years before the outbreak of World War One, chasing Pancho Villa across the border into northern Mexico. He led the American Expeditionary Force, and he was very well thought of as a commander. And this is where he made his fame. He really didn't get into World War II at all. You can see at the age of, he was 64 in 1924, and he was awarded the title General of the Armies. And again, you can read this, that he was only George Washington was awarded that title before. And here's a very stern-looking taskmaster fellow here, but that's General Pershing. Another person who really came to fame as kind of one of these classic American heroes was Alvin York, backwoodsman from Tennessee, was a pacifist, went to training, went overseas over in France, and you can read this for yourself, but he came out a real American hero. And you look at the last paragraph there, a film of his life was made in 1940, Sergeant York, starring Gary Cooper. And very interesting character. If you get down to Tennessee, there are several especially veteran facilities named after Alvin York. Just kind of a real down-to-earth, humble person who achieved quite a bit of fame during his time in World War One. And here's a picture of Sergeant York. Another person that gained a lot of fame during World War One was Eddie Rickenbacker, and he was really the first American ace. And it was interesting that you can read what he has here, but after the war, he ended up running the Indianapolis Speedway, and he was the president of Eastern Airlines later on. And again, very interesting character. You can go through and read this. And kind of the classic SOP, I believe it's a SOP with camel here, a biplane with the machine guns in the front, and kind of the classic aviation pose looking over the wings with your machine guns in the front. This next person, you can go ahead and read this, General George Patton, really ended up achieving his greatest fame during World War II as probably the greatest American general as far as tactics goes, fighting general during World War II. Patton, very, very interesting character. If you ever get a chance to read some biographies of him, go ahead and do it. There's a museum of General Patton at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and it's just off I-65 as you get near Elizabethtown. But Patton during World War I really developed his whole strategy of using tanks. And when he got into World War II, he was the most feared American tank commander. And let's see if we can get a picture of him during this time. And there's a Captain George Patton at the time, and you can see the very primitive tank. And he really championed that cause. See, I remember at the beginning of World War I, there were no tanks, and in fact, cavalry was actually used, but that pretty much didn't last too long, as the invention of the machine gun just made cavalry obsolete. Another person who distinguished himself in World War II and as President of the United States, Dwight Eisenhower, and again he never got over to France. But if you look at this, he trained tank crews, and he actually developed his strategy and his tactics, doing all sorts of exercises, military exercises with troops and so forth, over at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. In fact, he ended up retiring there after the presidency. He had a small farm in Gettysburg. Dwight Eisenhower became the Supreme Allied Commander in World War II, and it was his job to put all the different personalities to get them all to work together during World War II, especially Patton and Montgomery. And he did that very well, and it really launched him into the presidency of the United States. Now, another interesting note, during this time, he actually is given credit for the development of the interstate highway system. He had during this time he was supposed to take some troops out of Kansas, some material, and go to the West Coast, and there was no highways. And he saw that it just took forever and a day. The roads were bad, and so he really championed, when he was the president, the interstate highways, really as a way to transport material, war material, military material across the United States. And it was really their original, and still is, their original use. Here's a picture of him much earlier during World War I. Of course, everybody knows his nickname was Ike. I put a couple of Germans in here as we're going to, especially during World War II. Probably one of the more intriguing characters of World War II, and one of their most accomplished commanders was Erwin Rommel, better known during World War II as the Desert Fox, who led the Africa Corps in North Africa during World War II. Again, like Rommel, he he really developed his tactical strategies during World War I and applied them in World War II. He was Erwin Rommel was also part of the no, I guess the coup, if you will, that tried to go Adolf Hitler in the bunker during World War II, and he ended up committing suicide. But we'll look at that a little more later. Erwin Rommel was well thought of as probably one of the more gentlemanly of the German commanders during World War II. And also you can see here he was a field marshal during World War II, and we'll take a look at him a little bit later, probably about 30 years down the road. And there's a picture of Captain Erwin Rommel. The next person here, in very infamous person we should say, was Adolf Hitler, who was a corporal during World War I, and he developed much of his ideas, shall we say, about how and why the German people lost World War I and what cost them World War I. And I guess no matter how you look at it, he was probably the one that really pushed Germany into World War II, and really just put the whole world at war for 1939 to 1945, and it was his thought processes. He was just one of the people in history which everything really turned during World War II around his ideas, and we'll look at that. In fact, we have a whole section looking at Adolf Hitler there. Here's a picture of him as a corporal during World War I. Well, that's a brief look at some of the figures of World War I. Some of them definitely made their fame during that time, and other ones developed their ideas and military strategies during that time. So that's it for this particular issue.